I just went and saw the film Adrift. This is a film starring Shailene Woodley and a gentleman named Sam Claflin, who I don't think I've seen in anything before he was in this, but he gave a very good performance and I may be interested in seeing his other films. So if you don't know what Adrift is, just a general overview, it is a true story about a couple that try to sail from Tahiti to San Diego, and they get caught in a hurricane in 1983 and then are adrift for 41 days. I usually don't go to this kind of film at all. It's not really my cup of tea. It's a true story. It's mostly a romance. It's way too realistic. But I have MoviePass, so now I go to anything and everything at any point in time. And I also really like Shailene Woodley, so I was interested in checking out this film. It was really, really, really fun. I liked especially the narrative style. So the film opens up with her waking up on the ship after the hurricane and realizing that the guy she's been sailing with is gone, and she's calling for him. His name is Richard. And she's yelling for him, and then the film shifts to her on a boat arriving at Tahiti and like before they meet. And then the narrative sort of does that back and forth and back and forth and back and forth the whole time. And I thought that was really cool. It was a good way to tell the story because I think it keeps everything from getting too dark and sort of soul crushing as she's drifting alone, because it gives you a chance to go back and see the happier times and the good moments. And also it made for some really cool transitions where like they set sail from Tahiti for one day to go on a date, and they transition the boat that they are on out on the sea to the boat that they are then stranded on later. And it was just beautifully done. I really liked the way that it flopped back and forth, and I thought that it really heightened the story by telling it that way, because you knew what was going to happen, which you knew from the trailers in the beginning, but it didn't let you get bogged down by sort of the disasterness of it all, because when the movie started, the disaster had already happened. And I really, really liked that. This is where we get into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen the film, I suggest that you go and watch it and then come back. One of the things about this film is a reveal almost at the end, and that is that Richard died when the boat was hit by the hurricane. And in the film, she rescues him, finds him on the dinghy, and she pulls him back onto the boat, and his leg is broken and his ribs are shattered, but he's talking her through things, and he helps her navigate to find her way to Hawaii, and he's talking her through hunting for fish and all this kind of stuff. And then you realize at the end of the film that he actually wasn't there the whole time, that she was dehydrated and disoriented and hungry, and she hallucinated him, I guess, or used the memory of him to make it through. And that's really, really tragic and definitely made me feel a lot of feels, but it was beautifully and artistically done. And I liked the way that that reveal happened. I liked the way that that whole thing was told. And it really brought home like how she was feeling out on that boat and how she survived. And then at the very end of the film, they showed clips of the actual Tammy and her stories about how she heard Richard and how his voice helped her navigate and survive, and how she still sails to this day. And there's a beautiful song at the end when she goes back to Tahiti to Richard's boat and sees it and sort of says her final goodbyes. And it's a sad story, but doesn't end up being too depressing, just because you realize that what it really is a story of triumph after she made it through all of these days adrift. And then you realize that even though you thought it was him helping her, she was really figuring all that out on her own, and it's just really impressive. And it definitely is going to make you feel things, but hopefully some of those things are good. And it's cool to see a true story like this. And even though true stories aren't usually my cup of tea, it is pretty incredible the way that this happened and how that story played out. I'm gonna give it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and that is very personal, and it's just because I don't really often give 5 stars to things that are too realistic, but it is a fantastic movie. And if you like true stories, if you like adventure films, if you don't mind a little bit of heartbreak in movies that you see, I highly recommend it. So enjoy that film, and if you have seen it, leave me a comment and let me know what you thought, and I'll see you tomorrow.